this cartel of users of banking institutions has moved around a lot, has called itself different things, but the essence is the same, right? As Bird World says, anti-usury swag.
Mira que ya viene la revolución, para que se asustan será pa' mejor. Es el pueblo entero el que ya está gritando, viva la revolución.
Iranian nuclear weapons development.
They have turned the island into a communist hellhole.
The experiment in Venezuela has failed completely.
I know you've been doing a number of streams about the topic of Zionism. So I was kind of interested in talking to you about that because you've done a lot of research. And on my channel, I think kind of following the comments of Ye recently, that's got a lot of people discussing the Zionist lobby. Now, those weren't the exact words he was using, and he was kind of off base in some of the things he was saying. But nonetheless, a lot of people are talking about Zionism. And it, as you mentioned, it's a topic in even socialist spaces. Sometimes people are a little bit hesitant to address. So I realized, okay, I might revisit this topic and do a bit more research myself. In early 2021, with some Jewish comrades, we actually did a podcast demarcating Zionism from Judaism, explaining how Zionism as a geopolitical project differs from Judaism as a religion. And so, as a lot of people know who listen to my content, I'm of a South Asian background, and on in the subcontinent currently there's a Zionist aligned, actually, Hindutva government. So Hindutva is far-right Hinduism. And I think where Israel as a state differs from India is India was not built on Hindutva, regardless of what the BJP and RSS would want to tell you. That's not what the Indian nationalism of Tagore was about at all. Israel was built on Zionism. So whichever party's in power, it's built on this kind of like settler colonial project, whereas India as a state was not built on that. So you could get the BJP out of power and the state won't be about Hindutva. But Israel, it's something else. And I think the thing that I kind of want to, I'm going to revisit this, but I want to emphasize to people is understanding Zionism as a subset of Anglo-American imperialism. And I think it was really good how you put in the description Anglo-Zionism. And understand Britain has a historic relationship with the Holy Land. It goes back to the Crusades, actually. And that's something I want to kind of expose more, because you posted an excellent clip by the phenomenal orator Kwame Ture about how the Zionist state got their land from, as bequeathed them from the British Empire to essentially, push out the Palestinians and eventually push out other Arabs. And there was kind of a goal for this to be the beachhead in the quote unquote Near East or Western Asia. So I kind of wanted to explain to people that Zionism is like a subset of Anglo-American imperialism and understand how it fits into things globally. So I would kind of like next year, maybe I can have you back on to talk about this too, but kind of explain that historic relationship that Britain has had with wanting to control the Holy Land, which completely ties into Anglo evangelicals in the United States of America who are Zionists, like Mike Pence, who basically view America's funding of Israel as, of course, the Israeli bourgeoisie, they completely benefit from this, but the evangelicals in America, they control the Holy Land through this project that's a larger puzzle piece of imperialism. That was kind of my piece. I just want to give my analysis as I understand it. But you've said some very interesting things about how inversely Israelis have trained death squads in the areas where your folks are from too. So I found that really interesting. And
no, you bring up a great point, because if you look at a lot of the top magic money magicians on Wall Street, Sam Bankman-Fried, his family, big supporters of Israel. Bernie Madoff, his family, big supporters of Israel. Stephen Cohen, his family, big supporters of Israel. BlackRock, the largest finance corporation in the world, the largest bank in the world, big supporters of Israel. This stuff goes back thousands of years, and it gets into touchy subjects because a lot of people on the left don't want to talk about this or acknowledge this. But like you said, there's a difference between Zionism and Judaism, and it's important to discuss these things in a way that is historically accurate. And what's interesting is that when you start looking at the origins of Wall Street, when you start looking at the origins of insurance companies and banking institutions, and why is it that banks have names, use titles like water and liquidity and currency and banks, all of this stuff goes back to biblical times, to Jerusalem, to the Crusades. And what's interesting is that when we look at the Bible, we see that in the New Testament, what is it that Jesus does in the New Testament to the Pharisees? He goes to the temple.
I was gonna say Jesus was a Jewish revolutionary. You know, he said rebelling against
Right.
the Pharisees.
Right, exactly. Jesus was a Jewish revolutionary who rebelled against the Pharisees, who said that the Pharisees began a new pact with a new God. They no longer followed the God. They followed a different God, which was the golden calf or the materialism. They worshiped the temple more than God itself. They worship money and money changing and banking. This is the origins of banking institutions, is the ancient quote unquote Israel. And Jesus was rebelling against that, right? He kicked out the money changers from the temple. He said the most important temple, it's not a physical temple with gold and money and banking. The most important temple is your body. This is why your temples in your brain, these are called your temples, because
That's a good
they are
analogy.
your body, your mind is your temple, right? That is the most important thing. And so this fight between these banking institutions, these banking wizards, and people who are even before socialism, right? Going back to Christianity, Christian anti-capitalism, and religious anti-capitalism. This goes back thousands of years, this fight against banking. And so what happens is that after the year 66, after the Roman Jewish War in 1966, a lot of the Pharisees left the quote unquote land of Israel, and a lot of them went to places like Venice. A lot of them moved to other parts of the world to continue their mercantile trade. And this is why banking became an important institution for them, because they were able to continue to preserve their wealth in the form of coins and things that are portable and movable, and they can continue to make money. This is how the Venetian banking institutions came about, the Spanish, the Germans, all of that came about from that 66 conflict after the temple. So this cartel of users of banking institutions has moved around a lot, has called itself different things, but the essence is the same, right? As Bird World says, anti-usury swag. Usury, right? Usury and banking, it's magic. It's basically saying that I'm going to give you something and you're going to give me more of that in return, out of thin air, right? And with a lot of this stuff of Sam Bankman-Fried and Bernie Madoff and these capitalists and crypto, we're talking about things that you can't see or feel.